Let's have a quick conversation about filing taxes for several businesses. I'm talking about at least two businesses. So here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. So when we think about filing business taxes, the first thing you need to really be clear about is the tax classification and the legal structure of those businesses. So are we talking about partnerships? Are we talking about S corporations? Are we talking about C corporations? Are we talking about sole proprietorships? So those are we talking about ALCs? Those are important elements that you need to really clarify before you figure out how to file taxes for several businesses. That's number one. So tax classification, legal classification. Number two, the geographic location of those businesses. In other words, do you have to file a state business taxes, or are you lucky enough to be in a state where you don't have to file business taxes? So that's the second thing. And the third thing you need to have a clear idea about is how do you actually think about how do you actually organize the paperwork? So we're talking about schedules K1. So when we talk about filing taxes for several businesses, you're going to have to organize your schedules K1. It can be schedules K1 form 1065. It can be schedule K1 form 1120S. It can be schedule K1 if you have a C corporation. So those are really important. Okay. So there are three main elements. There are three main forms you need to really grapple with: form 1065, form 1120S, and form 1120. And in some cases, you might have to actually file Form 1040 Schedule C if you have several businesses, but you do not want to file those like you don't have a tax classification of a partnership or a corporation. So those are three elements I really want you to think about. The thing is that when we talk about filing business taxes for multiple businesses, the thing is you need to really have a clear idea whether you want to consolidate things on your personal tax return or whether you have to file things at the business level. First of all, if you have a C corporation, you can file taxes at the federal level, but also at the business level. That is on form 1120, but also on your personal form 1040. That's if you have a C corporation. But if you have an S corporation or a partnership, you're going to have to actually report whatever data you file through Form 1065 or 1120S. You're going to have to report that data on your Form 1040. So this is really important to think about that. Boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. So when we talk about filing taxes for several businesses, it's really important to understand how businesses pay income taxes. I really want to go. I want to elaborate a little bit so you have a clear idea how every type of business actually files taxes. Of course, we're speaking about the federal level, but also the state level is kind of similar. Okay, so when we talk about businesses, we're talking about sole proprietors, partnerships, S corporation, and C corporation, and also ALCs. Now, if you have an S corporation, let's say you have several sole proprietorships. If you own several businesses that qualify as sole proprietorships, everything is consolidated on your Schedule C. In other words, you don't have to file a separate business tax return. No, you just sort of incorporate all of your business data on your form 1040 Schedule C, and that's it. If you have partnerships, you have to actually file Form 1065 and you have to issue also Schedules K1. And you have to do this for all the businesses that you own that qualify as partnerships. So basically you filed Form 1065 with the IRS, and then you have to give all the partners their Schedules K1. They have to file taxes at the personal level. If you have an S corporation, you have a similar sort of process. In other words, you have to file Form 1120S, and this is an informational return. It's kind of similar to Form 1065, and you have to issue also Schedules K1 to all the corporate shareholders, the S corporation shareholders, who have to pay taxes on their Schedule C at the 1040 level. If you own several businesses and all those businesses actually qualify as a C corporations, then you have to file twice. So that's what we call double taxation. Not that we call, that's what the experts in the industry call double taxation. So you have to pay taxes at the federal level at the company level, rather, on Form 1120, but also at the personal level on your Form 1040. So when you actually, so you have to pay taxes twice. If you actually own several LLCs, it really depends how you categorize your LLCs for tax purposes. If you have an LLC, you can choose to be taxed as an S corporation, as a C corporation, or as a partnership. You can also choose to be taxed as a sole proprietorship. In other words, if you are by default, if you're a single member LLC, you are going to be taxed as a sole proprietorship. So bottom line here is that if you own several businesses, the kind of taxes you file will depend upon the tax classification and the legal structure of those businesses. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about if you own several businesses, how do you file taxes? Another question you need to pay attention to here is that payroll taxes. You got to really, so if you own several businesses, the question is, are you paying payroll taxes in some or all of those businesses? Because the configuration is totally different. Okay, if you have a business that has employees, you are responsible for paying various payroll taxes, including half of each employee's Social Security and Medicare taxes, and withholding taxes from your employees' wages. And you calculate the amount of payroll taxes due based on taxable wages paid to your employees. And so the amount that you as a business owner pay and the amount that is withheld from employee paychecks, it's sent to the IRS on a semi-monthly, monthly, or quarterly schedule. So, and the frequency that you have to send this money is really typically based on the amount of payroll taxes the business generates each payroll cycle. So this is really important to really understand. So if you have several businesses, you're going to have to actually account for payroll for each business that actually is withholding payroll taxes. And you can actually the cool thing is that you can actually outsource. If you have several businesses, you can outsource the whole process to a third-party provider, and such as ADP or Gust or whatever, and they'll take care of things for you. Now, how do you actually report this information on your personal tax return? Well, if you own multiple businesses, you will first gather the necessary information to calculate the taxable income or loss produced by each business during the tax year. And from there, how that information is reported depends on the business structure of each business. Okay, as I said before, here we have sole proprietorships are treated differently. If you have partnerships, are treated differently. Now, if you have an LLC, if you have a C corporation, if you have an S corporation, the big question is, I was talking to you earlier about payroll business, like payroll taxes. Does that affect your personal taxes at all? No, because payroll taxes are a liability of the business, and so part of it is a liability of the business, and part of it is just a remittance that you have to send to the IRS. In other words, you withhold the money from the employees' paychecks, and you are just giving it to the IRS. Okay, so you don't, as a business owner, you don't have to pay anything at all. So you have half. So you're paying half, and as a business, you're paying half, and the employees is paying half. So there is no direct correlation to your personal tax return. Okay, it's one of those things where you have to pay. You have to actually take care of those payroll taxes at the business level. So if you own 10 businesses, you're going to have to take care of payroll for each of those 10 businesses. Let me give you a few pro tips here. So when we talk about filing taxes for several businesses, it's really important to first get your records in order. Okay, so good tax preparation begins with record keeping. So before you start the process, you want to collect all your relevant business records, especially if you have multiple businesses. It's really important to have a high level of organization. You can do it electronically or you can do it manually. Either way, you need to have a certain level of discipline, a certain level of preparation, and a certain level of what we call commitment. So you got to be constant here. Okay, but anything I'm telling you, you can really outsource the whole process to a third party, and they'll take care of everything for you. If you want to do it, you can do it yourself, but you got to be prepared. So depending on the type of business entity, you will need different things So things like personal information, so your social security number, your address, your date of birth, last year's tax returns, your employer identification number. So you can actually find yours on the IRS.gov website. You also need to collect everything related to your earnings and expenses. So on the earnings side, this could be invoices you send to clients, records of any goods sold to customers, sales records that note money coming into your business. So we're speaking here about cash inflows, right? Revenue generation. So on the expenses side, you want to collect receipts for any costs you incur during operation. Think of things like rent receipts for your small business, office supplies, employee salaries, client lunches, mileage records, anything that relates to the cost of goods sold, but also the operating expenses on your income statement. So this is really important. Now, so number one, you get your records in order. Number two, you want to find the right tax form for your business structure. So depending upon whether you have a sole proprietor, so we are looking for a Form 1040 Schedule C primarily. If you have a partnership or LLC, we're looking for Form 1065, along with the ancillary necessary schedules, Schedule K1 being one of them. If you are looking for a Form 1120S, this is if you have a sole proprietorship in terms of a tax classification. And if you have a C corporation, you have to actually have Form 1120. All those forms I'm talking to you about, they are available on the IRS websites, not a problem, okay? And so as you collect the forms, be aware of the deadlines. So when we talk about Schedule C, sole proprietorships, or LLCs with one member, so single member LLC, the deadline is April 15th. If you are a multi-member LLC or you are filing as a partnership, the deadline is March 15th. If you're a C corporation or LLCs that elect to be corporations, the deadline is April 15th. And if you're an S corporation, the filing deadline here is March 15th. So you got to be really aware of that. And there is a filing deadline in terms of if you pay contractor, you need to send Form 1099 NEC to contractors by January 31st. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about how to file business taxes for several businesses that you own. The third thing you want to do here is, so that number one, you want to get your records in order. Number two, you want to find the right tax form for your business structure. Very important. The third thing you need to do here is try to file your taxes online. See, the whole thing is you can file your taxes manually, not a problem. But nowadays it's just a lot easier to do electronic filing, and that's what you want to do anyway. Because basically, if you're filing your taxes online, guess what? You're saving time. You are actually avoiding some kind of weird errors, mistakes on your business tax returns, right? And so filing online does not require you to fill out paper forms. Get your return to the IRS faster. Let you receive your refund electronically via direct deposit, and it's kind of secure. It's really safe also than sending your forms in the mail. So if you have multiple businesses and you're thinking about the best strategy to file your taxes, think about free file. Think about choosing a free file provider. Think about actually working with other providers, not a problem. And the thing is, if you have multiple businesses and you're kind of late, apply always for an extension. You want to apply for an extension automatically, okay? And when it comes to paying taxes, remember that you can actually pay your taxes online as well or via check. But the IRS wants you to actually send them all the money that you owe by the date you file. So if you actually apply for an extension and the IRS grants you that extension, let's say you have 6 more months to actually file your taxes, whatever you owe by the date, by the regular due date, you need to send that check in no matter what. So it's one of those things where filing for an extension doesn't mean that you are filing for let's say a postponement of your of paying your tax liability. No, you still are liable for the taxes as of April 15th or March 15th, depending upon your tax classification, but you can still apply for a tax extension. One thing I want to say here is that when we talk about owning several businesses and how to file taxes, of course, I've established the fact that you need to be really organized. That's number one. But number two, you need to track things, okay? When we talk about tracking things, we're talking about not only remembering your federal tax responsibilities, but also remembering your other tax responsibilities. So we're talking about what? Sales and use taxes. property taxes. So we're talking about excise taxes, all kinds of taxes that you need to really pay attention to, because at the end of the day, you do not want to be fined by any tax authorities, whether they are federal or state oriented. Let me give you a bonus here. So if you actually own several businesses, it's really important to understand that you want to always gather your business records. I mean, this is one of those things where you got to have a certain organization. Nowadays, the cool thing is that you can actually organize things electronically. Okay, so if you were to go with if you were to go with an accounting software tool such as QuickBooks or Wave or Zero, you can actually consolidate you can consolidate multiple businesses under one software or under one license or two licenses. This is totally possible, but you got to have them. And when we talk about gathering your business records, we're speaking about things like having your last year's returns, your last year's tax returns, your employer, your EIN, your employer identification number, your SSN, your social security number, financial statements. So here we're talking primarily about your balance sheet, but also your income statement. There are some cases where the IRS wants to look at your cash flow statements also, and also kind of look at the equity side of your business. So if that's the case, they will ask you to provide your statement of owner's equity, and also you want to have a clear layout or a clear sort of breakout between your receipts and your expenses. So the whole thing here is that you want to be ready, okay? And then you got to really get your bookkeeping up to date. It's one of those things, like I said, you can actually outsource the whole process, which is what we advise our clients to do, or you can do things yourself. Now, chances are if you have multiple businesses, you probably have some staff. So I do not advise, our team does not advise you to actually do your own taxes if you own multiple businesses, because it's just a lot of work. Okay, you just want to outsource this to a CPA firm, to an EA firm, to a tax attorney firm, somebody who has experience when it comes to the nuances of filing several businesses. And I'm not even talking about that. I don't want to complicate things further by saying, listen, what if those businesses were in several states? Then we have a situation where we're filing several business tax returns, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level. Okay. And so you want to be in a situation where you have a strong grip on your bookkeeping in terms of recording and categorizing every business transaction from your tax filing year. You want to reconcile your books with your bank accounts. You want to produce your financial statements. You want to gather your receipts and invoices. This is so quintessential. You want to file tax forms with your contractors and employees, including 1099 NEC and 1099 MIS. So those are important. And you want to really set aside money to pay your taxes. Remember what I told you earlier, right? If you actually file your taxes at the federal level, if you are a partnership or you are a sole proprietorship, you do not pay taxes at the company level, but you pay taxes at the personal level. But you still need to have money to actually pay those taxes, okay? And you also want to claim your small business tax deductions for each of the several businesses that you own. I'm talking about raw materials, startup cost, office supplies, office commercial rent, home office expense, insurance, business travel, salaries and benefits, and so on and so forth. Now, the best way to actually file your file taxes for several businesses once and for all is to actually have a situation where you are actually planning the filing of those returns with your staff. So if you choose to do it yourself, you're gonna have to do some planning, because see, the dates I just told you earlier, I mentioned April 15th and March 15th. Those are not the only dates that you have to account for. If you own several businesses and you actually, depending upon the legal classification and the tax classification of those businesses, you're gonna have to account for several deadlines, including payroll tax remittances. So whether we're talking about Form 941 or Form 944. So the bottom line here is what? The bottom line here is that you gotta really be prepared. And so being prepared in terms of having I would say we call it a board, okay, a tax board that really meets like once a month throughout the year to sort of plan the filing of those several business tax returns. And again, I want to remember that we're not just speaking here about the federal income tax returns for your business. We're speaking about self-employed taxes. We're speaking about sales taxes. We're speaking about payroll taxes. So we're speaking about a constellation of business taxes that you need to be aware of and that you need to actually remit to the relevant authorities on time. And and there's also a long list of business tax forms that you need to be aware of, including 1120S, 1120, 1065. And when we switch to the personal side, we're talking about 1040 Schedule C, 1040 ES. Okay. And so those are things you need to think about depending upon your industry. And that's why it's critical to actually prepare things throughout the year. So it has to be a continuous sort of meeting and brainstorming process that allows you to be ready on D-Day when it comes to filing taxes for your several businesses. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I just spoke to you about how to file business taxes if you own several businesses. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Let me do a quick recap here. So I gave you the overview. I actually spoke to you. I gave you a few pro tips, and I give you a bonus in terms of gathering your business records and keeping your bookkeeping up to date. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.